Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm very excited to be here at Hansa Studios with the rather wonderful Nani. You know what? In all these years, I always just call you Nani, Nani, Nani. I have no idea what your surname is.
Oh, Johansson.
That's the easiest surname for a Swedish person ever in the history of Swedish people.
And you know what? In the team, we're 3 ladies in my team, and we're all called Johansson.
But you're not related.
No.
So proves the point, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the most Swedish name, almost.
There we go. So Nani, we've known each other. When did we first come here? 2019. So it's been 5 years. And it's lovely to be back here.
Yeah? Did you notice anything different? Was it better this time?
Was it better this time? Well, you've had 5 years of additional experience.
Yeah.
This is true.
Exactly.
But you were already amazing 5 years ago, so...
Yeah, I don't know. Moses was here.
Moses was here.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference, I think. Yeah.
Well, so the question is, when did you first start at Hansa?
10 years ago, I started working with Michael Ilbert, who's got the mix room next door, in 2014. So I've been here for 10 years.
That is absolutely amazing. So 10 years here. Now you're, I suppose, officially the head engineer?
Well, we're all freelancers here. There is no, actual...
There's no hierarchy, but...
Exactly. There's no hierarchy.
But after being here for 10 years, you are the senior engineer. How about that? Senior engineer.
Okay,
I think that's good.
I'll take it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. How do you start in Sweden and end up in Berlin?
Well, I was a musician way back, and got into engineering because I wanted to know whatever the guy was doing over there at the console, and I had no idea. And went to sound engineering school for 3 years, and then went to Stockholm.
In Sweden?
Yes.
What was it called?
Luleå Tekniska Universitet. It's a technical university, but it's in a subdivision of that called Piteå Musikhögskola, so music like college, I guess. So 3 years, a bachelor degree. And after that, I went to Stockholm to work at Polar Studios. Yeah, so I was there for 3 years. And then I was...
Polar still going?
No.
Oh.
No. Already back then, it was like a lot of the old gear and none of the studios. Like the spaces were all gone. We had all the gear set up in a warehouse to record. Yeah.
Such a shame.
Yeah.
Such a classical studio.
Yeah. But that's also how I got to know or learn how to fix gear, because it was all in rather bad condition. So to record at all, we had to start with fixing the console.
What was the console?
It was a Calrec. Oh, it's been so long.
Yeah, with like PQ 1061s in. Those would be the mic pre's.
Yeah.
With EQs.
Yeah, could be. It's been so long. It was the first console I learned how to maintain.
Those are wonderful consoles.
Yeah. It just runs very hot. Yeah, in a tight space without air conditioning. It was a bit of a journey, but yeah.
Was that the transition to Berlin, or?
Yeah, I was working at a few studios doing maintenance and so on in Stockholm as well. And one of them had been Benny Andersson's new studio that they built. I also helped install the console there, a Neve 8068 64 channel. Michael, our next door neighbor here, was there working, and he was looking for assistance, and he got word about me, and then he asked if I wanted to come down here to try and work with him for a bit.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Because, when you think about it geographically, you've got Sweden here, and you've got Britain there, and Germany there. You could have gone in either direction.
Yeah, I've been over to your side of the... Yeah.
Our side of the...
Whatever, the bay. What's in the middle there? The water.
Yeah, the water.
Yeah, but only a couple of times. I worked... with Andy Chatterley, but also after I'd worked with him here, he has a studio above Funky Junk. And a couple of years ago, I was at Abbey Road engineering an album with a Finnish band.
You were telling me about that. That's pretty interesting. We'll get to that in a chronological sense. So you come over, you're working with Michael Ilbert, who has the room next door to the one we're in at the moment. And I haven't interviewed yet, but I've been talking to him. He has a beautiful console in there.
Yeah.
Was it already in there when you came over?
Yes, he had it. And I think that was one of the reasons I got to stay, because I'd already acquired some engineering skills and how to fix vintage Neve consoles, especially of that age or era. So I ended up maintaining his console whilst I was his mixing assistant and recording assistant. And yeah.
I love this. It's sort of gone full circle to the original sort of engineers of the late 60s, which were also able to fix their consoles.
Yeah.
And like obviously famously with Trident, design and build their own consoles as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I've kept doing that, and I do that as a side business while I, most of the time now, jumping ahead, engineer my own records. With artists of my own most of the time. But there's always a few studios that I help out with.
So is it sort of a natural progression from working with Michael next door to people coming in and, how did you slip into working in this room?
Well, because he's next door, he loves his studio as well. And we recorded quite a few records in here. And because he's a stickler for details, we were checking out the gear, and I had to test everything beforehand. And so I got to know the studio very, very well. Like no one else was knowing it back then, almost, because there was no in-house engineer. There was all just freelancers, and the few assistants that had been here for longer, they were also coming in and out because no one has been employed by Hansa Studios for very long. And they just recently employed a studio manager again, which is great, but there's no engineer. It's all freelancers keeping it up to spec, because we were like, hey, we really want to keep this going, so please fix this and that, and here's the troubleshooting report for.
Well, we've been here 6 days, and I don't remember us ever stopping to do which you normally do in studios.
Yeah.
6 days of not having to twist pots, and worse still, flipping out channels from the end to the ones at the front because those are broken. None of that stuff. So good job maintaining it.
Yeah. I've been on holidays, and I felt that the console had been too. So there were a few moments where I was like, oh no, this is not perfect, but I'm glad you didn't notice.
I didn't sense it.
No.
Nope. Ran really, really well.
Yeah. And the engineers coming in. The one that maintains this console, which is not me. I tried to be producer in this studio, and keep the main engineer for the console doing that. But yeah, there are not that many that do that.
So 10 years here. What are sort of some highlights? What records have you made here that you're most proud of? Well, you know what? I'm going to throw you under the bus, because just before we came here, we were over with our friend Fernando Perdomo, who's an amazing musician and a real mainstay of the Los Angeles music scene. And he was super excited. And it was Eric and I, and he's like, you guys have got to hear this recording. Everybody in LA is talking about it. And we were like, what is it? And he's like, it's this Australian band called Parcels, recorded at Hansa. And I was like, oh, wow, Hansa. Yeah, I love Hansa. We were there. And so he starts playing it, and it sounds absolutely superb. In fact, so much so that we were listening to another recording they had done, and we were like, no, this is the recording. This is much better. So I scroll down in the description, and it says engineered by, and guess whose name?
Well,
it was you.
Yeah. So you have read my last name once, and there it was.
And there it was.
Yeah. That's. It was a very short, intense session, but it was a highlight, and it's one of few where you have the combination of a band that has rehearsed, because they've toured a lot and they've played these songs a lot, and it was a live session, so they were all there were no new songs that were untested, so it was like the greatest hits played live. It was great, and they were sticklers for rehearsing, so I think they were just so extremely tight and easy to work with in that sense. So plus they had contacted me beforehand and asked me how they should prepare, because we only had 2 days in the studio, and it was a huge video crew. They needed a lot of time to set up, so the audio didn't get so much time, and we discussed how to prepare the instruments, drums, and which drum heads we should use. And I went with the drummer to the music store to actually handpick the drum heads for the session, and brought them to him and was like, yeah, here. And then we tried out some tunings in the rehearsal space and discussed, as the session was recorded on tape, we discussed, should we do it at 15 IPs or 30 IPs, and what does that mean? And I had to tell them, like, break the news that we can't do a 1 hour plus live recording onto tape because, well, in the old days we did have 2 machines, so we could have maybe synced them up and had them running continuously, but we didn't. So we only have one 24-track machine here, and so after 15 minutes, we had to stop, and they had to wait and stand there, and then we were rewinding and so on. And like we went through all of this beforehand. So they were, and sent their instruments to like a maintenance engineer here in town who fixes instruments. And so everything was like super up to spec. And then we get rolling, and I think we'd recorded for like 10 minutes, and then the sampler, like the only thing that we hadn't checked, broke down. And then we had to sit and wait for like 2 hours while they tried to get to the spare sampler, because of course they have one. But that was the only hiccup we had, I think, during that session.
As you casually mentioned, though, it was recorded on tape.
Oh, yes. Casually.
I know. Used to be de rigueur, used to be what we all did. But now, of course, it's like extra special. We're going to go on to tape. So presumably, did you align and bias the machine beforehand? Yes. And I believe that was when we changed the calibration, because it was a quite modest alignment beforehand. So it was hard to actually push it. We didn't have enough headroom on the console to like push it to saturation. And so we changed it to a hotter alignment just before the session, because I had done some sessions before and it was really hard. Actually, I think they'd used it for tape transfers mainly for many, many years. And it wasn't so often used for sessions. And I guess if it was, then it was used with a Dolby system, which we had bypassed. And so we needed to push to not have noise also, and for sound. So we aligned it a little bit hotter, 514 nanowebers, I guess. And it sounded really great. And it's an amazing recording. We'll have a link underneath. So it's Parcels live at Hansa Studios. It's amazing recording. Live Volume 1. Volume 1, sorry. Volume 1. Yeah. Yeah, I particularly love the drum sounds. Yeah. Yeah, really great. That tubby kind of snare. Yeah. Absolutely superb. Toto is great. Also the drummer. He's, super consistent. It's amazing. To me, it was a perfect recording, because the artists themselves, you can tell they're all incredible musicians, but they're not afraid to write great songs. Yay! In a world where there's always wonderful musicianship, it always comes at the expense of great songs. But they actually have really good songs. So it must have been fun to work with for a couple of days because of that. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I felt like, they really were eager and but not shy about their musicianship, really, and they were still caring for that very much. Marvelous. So apart from Parcels, what have you done here that you really enjoyed? The last years I've been going strong with a lot of the German and European jazz scene. So there are some really amazing things. You can probably just find them. There are so many. I don't want to pick one out. Are they tracking on tape, or they come in and? No, I think that's the one. We've talked about it, and we've done one session to tape, but it hasn't been released, and it was a bit of a trial thing. So no, it's. I suppose it's that extra expense, isn't it? It's they're paying for studio time and then paying for tape might be a little much for an independent artist. Exactly. Yeah. I'm really, really happy if they can afford to come here. Artists in Germany and also in Switzerland, I know, are very lucky to have very good state funding. They've Amazing. Been, a lot, especially during COVID also. So suddenly we had a real influx of artists that could come here and record, even if it's mostly for like 2 days. Some do 3 days, but that's kind of rare. So it's very efficient and we have it down. And as you say, I take pride also in presenting the studio as one where they don't have to care about the technical stuff.
breaking down. And they're very happy about that because they've been in situations where engineers have been tearing their hair out and they have to calm the engineer. And I've heard that more than once, that they come here because they don't have to care about it. And I'm just here, kind of. And
That's amazing.
The gear works.
That is amazing. And that's a real testament to you.
Mm.
So you have your own room here as well.
Yeah. Since about 4 years now.
Lovely. I mean, the whole building is a honeycomb of different production rooms and record companies and mastering. So we're actually going to go from you and go and talk to Frida, who actually shares your room.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been, speaking of tape, her first session with me actually was as an assistant engineer in 2018. It was a couple of weeks before I was getting married. I was stressed like a lot. We were, it was a lot. Building a kitchen and renovating my family farm, etc. She helped me out in a very stressful time in my life. And decided to fly down from Sweden to assist on one of my recordings, which was on tape. So she was tape opping. And she kept doing that for about, what's now? So that was about 4 or 5 years until she decided that she also wanted to try living in Berlin for a while. So she's been here since, and we've been sharing a room since 2-3 years now.
Well, let's go and talk to Frida.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing marvelously well. I'm here with the wonderful Frida Claeson Johansson.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Marvelous. Now, you are a freelance engineer here, but you're also a mastering engineer.
Exactly.
Give us a little bit of insight. How did you get here? You went to school in Sweden and...
Yeah. Like, I went to school in Sweden and then I had my internship in a studio in Gothenburg.
Great.
The Svenska Grammofonstudion. And I worked there. After my studies, Nani was looking for an assistant engineer. And then she reached out to our teacher and he connected us. And then I started to work here for different sessions, going back and forth between Sweden and Germany. And then I decided to move here.
So you just come out to do a session for a week or two and then go back home and then go back out. Great. How long ago was that?
That was I moved here 3 years ago. So I started working with Nani 2018.
So it's 3 years of traveling backwards and forwards and 3 years of being here. Now, as a mastering engineer, are you working in the box or hardware or combination of both?
Combination of both.
So,
yeah.
Talk us through your gear here, please.
Yeah. So my first gear is the Masterlock EQ. And then we have the Shadow Hill mastering compressor, the TubeTech multiband compressor, device, DS compressor and limiter. And then we have a machine head, the SPL machine head, which is a tape simulator.
Are you using everything or just picking and choosing what you want on each song?
Yeah, I'm picking and choosing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the thing you're using most for volume? Because that's always the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you limiting at the end?
I'm using the device and also the SPL, not for volume.
Right.
Yeah, and then I go back in the computer and do like final EQ and limiter.
Okay, cool. And then for the interface, what are you using? What's your I/O?
Antelope Pure 2 that I'm using for the analog chain, and for when I'm in the computer, I'm switching like different settings in the Antelope and using that as well.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
Marvelous. And then this is you shared us with Nanni.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is some of her gear here for the engineering products. It's interesting to see you have Zaffi, who we've just been recording with Moses.
Exactly.
Excellent. Yeah. What's the TC here? That's just for metering?
Exactly.
Phase metering?
Yeah.
And then your speakers, what do you have?
I use the ATC for mastering. And the other ones, the ProAct and the Oratones, they are Nanni's speaker, and maybe sometime I am like switching between, but I'm like mainly using the ATCs.
There's a Crane song here for speaker switching and also presumably referencing different tracks and stuff. So when you're back in the box in the DAW, first of all, what DAW do you use?
For the analog chain, I use Pyramix.
Okay.
And then I go back to Pro Tools.
What are you doing detail-wise inside of the DAW? Are you using it just for like super finite stuff if you have to do like dynamic EQ or multibands and stuff like that?
Yeah, I do like different kind of stuff. It depends like on the song, of course. Yeah. It's a combination of like compression, limiting, and EQ.
Right.
And then sometimes I like do tiny adjustments like in the EQ.
You're going through your analog chain, you're coming back into Pro Tools. What are you tweaking? What are your sort of favorite plugins, I suppose, is what I want to know? Yeah, my favorite plugins at the moment is actually Vice DS1 MK3. It's like basically the same, but a digital version. Is there more detail in the digital version, or is it because you can program it to do moves and things?
It's this one has a little bit more like things to do, so I can also do MS like mid-side. It helps to get a more open sound in a way. I also use FabFilter Pro Q3.
Do you use dynamic compressors? You're using it in a dynamic mode, so you're dipping frequencies as they're excessive.
Yeah, exactly. I'm only using like the dynamics in FabFilter Pro Q.
Right.
Not always, but sometimes to gain some more dynamics back, sort of.
Right.
Yeah. And then I have my final limiter, and that's FabFilter Pro L.
I presume you're getting stuff sent to all different bit rates, but you're obviously bringing everything down to 16-bit 44.1.
At one stage, like, yeah. Like nowadays, I think 24 bits are totally fine for streaming. And
sure.
Yeah. So I try to keep like all the files in 24-bit and also in the sample rates that I get them in. And then I process them in the same sample rate. And if I get a file in 16-bit, then I will convert it to 24-bit. It's totally 24-bit in the end. But yeah.
Fantastic. I hope you enjoyed that. There is a link down below to the mastering company, which, can you pronounce it again for me? Because I'm out.
Svenska Grammofonstudio Mastering.
Oh yeah, easy for me to say. There's a link down below if you want to find out more. Thanks ever so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you too.
So we're here with Alva Johansson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm marvellous. How long have you been here at Hansa?
A little bit over 2 years now.
2 years?
Yeah.
How did you end up here? And is it a prerequisite to be Swedish to work here?
I don't know. For me, it was kind of. I was in school, and then my school doesn't have any scheduled like internship time and stuff.
Right.
So I decided to take it into my own hands, and then we have a very long summer break. So then I knew from an old teacher in Sweden that Frida actually worked here, because I knew her from the studio where I grew up. And then I contacted her, but didn't get an answer.
Right.
So then I contacted my teacher and was like, hey, can you like tell them that I'm also in Berlin and I'm like looking for an internship place.
Oh, so you came to Berlin to find
I was already studying here.
Oh, I see. Where were you studying here?
I studied electronic music production.
So you studied at BIM. Did you study before in Sweden?
Yes, I studied 1 year, like after you finish your high school, like
Yep.
A-levels. I studied 2 years at a folk high school, which is like kind of a place where you can take some time off, but also like go into like specific courses and stuff, and like have a look if this is something you like or are interested in, and get like a first dip into it.
Were you a musician and you wanted to get onto the recording side? What was your journey?
I always played at home, and then I started studying songwriting actually there for 1 year. And then I realized I really liked the like computer part of it and like the electronic part. So then I started their production course there as well.
But it's quite a step from a computer kind of modern EDM dance music thing to come to I suppose, Hansa, which is a more traditional recording
Yes.
studio. Although, obviously, Hansa is famous for being always edgy and cutting edge. You know, when you think of the late 70s stuff with Bowie and Heroes and Iggy Pop and Depeche Mode and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But there's still a little bit of a leap. Did you want to learn how to do the more analog stuff then?
When moving here, like Hansa was the only studio I actually knew of in Berlin. And it came so very like perfectly that I also had like contacts that actually knew people here. I studied electronic music production, but I don't make like EDM or dance music. Actually, I'm kind of into like this old stuff as well with analog synthesizers.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, there's a room behind here which has got Eno's name carved in it from when he was sitting in there with analog synthesizers doing that exact same thing.
Yeah.
What's been of the last 2 years of being here, what have been your sort of favorite sessions?
I always really like the sessions where it's like not predetermined exactly what it's going to be, where it's also a lot of like synthesizers or like a bit more like extra stuff, like not completely like...
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Moses is good for that because you just don't know what's going to happen with Moses. He's just going to show up and start twisting some knobs and creating all kinds of crazy sounds.
Yeah, it was really a fun session to be a part of. It was really cool.
Are you assisting, but are you also engineering sessions here?
No, I don't. I'm just an assistant. I've been working with Nani now for, almost 2 years. And I started as an intern, but then I continued helping her. I don't know exactly if I would engineer sessions myself, but I very much so like to be a part of them and like learn from them.
Right.
But I think, I'm not sure yet what I want to do, actually.
Well, thanks ever so much for sharing your journey with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Marvellous. So, everybody, please check out the link to Hansa Studios down below. Rocco's the manager, so book the studio. And of course, there's amazing staff here, as you can see. And we've had an amazing time over the last 6 days here at Hansa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios, ciao, and tschüss.